Hey guys, this is Tierlis here with another Warlords of Draenor beta video. I'm looking into the Retribution Paladin this time around. Not much going on with Retribution Paladin. There are two major changes, and then they've had a couple of abilities changed and removed, and they've gotten some new glyphs, and I will look at their Draenor perks and their level 100 talents. So, the two major changes affecting Retribution Paladins are nothing but positives in my opinion. First is that Inquisition has been removed from the game, so no longer do you have to deal with a maintenance buff, which I cannot describe how thrilled I am to have this removed. I hated Inquisition, and I have not played my Ret Paladin ever since Inquisition was entered into the game. It's just not fun to use, and so now it has been removed. Don't worry though, I know a lot of people out there in the WoW community as a whole has been worried about their damage. Blizzard is going to balance Ret Paladin damage with the fact that Inquisition is no longer there. So do not worry about damage output, it will be the same. It's just Inquisition, your maintenance buff is now gone. It makes things a whole lot better, especially in terms of PvP. The other major change to Retribution Paladin I kind of alluded to in the intro video describing stat squish, etc. And that is that the offensive cooldowns have been merged or eliminated on Ret Paladin. The only major ability left on Ret Paladin is going to be your Avenging Wrath, and the others have been either merged or eliminated. Guardian of Ancient Kings is no longer a part of the Ret spec. This does a lot for Retribution that people don't realize. Retribution Paladins were always a spec that relied on, blowing all of their offensive cooldowns, and then they'd have their burst phase, and then if you could heal through the burst phase, then you were okay. After that, Ret Paladin was nothing. It was like hitting with a wet noodle. Did nothing. Well, that's going to be changed now, because now that those are out of the way, Blizzard balances with PvE first, and so they're going to have to buff all of the other abilities to compensate for that those offensive cooldowns are no longer there, which is going to result in a more steady, sustained DPS rather than having that burst phase. So a Ret Paladin is going to be able to go up to a PvP player and is going to be able to put some consistent pressure on them that they have not been able to do almost forever. So huge change there, and a huge change for the positive if you ask me. I think you will start seeing more Ret Paladins used, especially with some of the the utility tweaks that they have put on that we will see in the Glyphs changes. As far as abilities that have changed, they have changed Exorcism so that your auto attacks have a 20% of resetting the cooldown of your Exorcism. Basically, Art of War is gone, and they just merged it into Exorcism, straight into Exorcism. Another ability that has been removed has been Blinding Light. Blizzard wanted to cut down on CC. They've been combining diminishing returns on all across the board, and they wanted to get rid of the instant cast type CCs that just bloated CC in a battleground, and so that is why Blinding Light has been eliminated. Easy fix, easy removal. There are 3 new glyphs for Retribution Paladins. Whoops, opened the wrong window. The first of these is going to be Glyph of Judgment, which increases the range of Judgment by 10 yards. This puts Judgment on par with 40-yard range spells from other casts. There is the Glyph of Liberator, which Hand of Freedom's cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds when not cast on self. And then the third one is Glyph of Hand of Freedom, which is Hand of Freedom immediately reduces the remaining duration of all effects which cause loss of control of a character by 25%. Any additional loss of control effects applied within 4 seconds have a 25% reduced duration. So some nice little, additions there to Hand of Freedom, and you got a bonus range on Judgment. Really, just some helpful glyphs out for the Ret Paladin class as a whole. Right now there's no way to actively show you the Draenor perks that are in game. Unfortunately for Retribution Paladins, most of their perks are just straight damage buffs, which is kind of disappointing. But there are 4 that were, had somewhat interesting applications. And the first of these is improved Divine Protection. Divine Protection reduces magical damage taken by an additional 10%. Improved Forbearance reduces the duration of Forbearance by 30 seconds. This one I really like. If you notice, I'll click Divine Shield here, and I have a 30-second Forbearance as opposed to a minute. There is Enhanced Hand of Sacrifice, which reduces the cooldown of Hand of Sacrifice by 30 seconds. And another one of my favorites is Empowered Hammer of Wrath. Hammer of Wrath can now be used on targets below 35% health. You can see it in the tooltip in the bottom right hand corner there. So 2 of those I'm actually really happy with. 2 are kind of okay, and then the rest are just damage buffs, which is disappointing. Hopefully we'll see some kind of change possibly before beta end, but you can't promise anything or know anything with Blizzard. Last, there is the talents, level 100 talents for Druid. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to well, I'm going to do that last because it's got 30-second cooldown. First is Empowered Seals, which is your seals also cause your judgment to empower you with an additional beneficial effect which persists through changing skills. Judgment of Justice increases your movement speed by 20%. Judgment of Insight heals you for 3% of your maximum health every 2 seconds. Judgment of the Righteousness increases your attack speed by 30%. And Judgment of Truth increases your attack power by 15%. All of these last 20 seconds. So in theory, in a Pde rotation, you likely will be starting off with a Seal of Righteousness, and then the second that the Seal of Righteousness is off, you'll switch over to Seal of Truth, and you'll stick with Seal of Truth all the way until your Seal of Righteousness Judgment buff is about to fall off, as it is here, and I'll switch back over, and I'll use it and get it back, and then I'll switch right back to Truth. So that's one of the, kind of new changes that I think will be really interesting to see, because that almost brings back the old vibe of reapplying seals that you had in Burning Crusade, because you're constantly going to be switching between seals. In PvE, it'll only be pretty much between 2 seals, but in PvP, I could see at least 3 of the seals being actively rotated upon to gain all of those buffs. I can see where the attack speed might not be as beneficial due to a melee class trying to continually keep up with a ranged DPS class, but otherwise I consider it, you could possibly be switching between the other 3, which is pretty awesome. Over on the right hand side here we have Final Verdict, which replaces your Templar's Verdict. It basically switches Templar's Verdict damage completely to Holy, but it also gives you a nice little 10-yard range to use for Final Verdict. And you can see a spell visual right here. It's just a hammer, comes out of nowhere and does holy damage. I don't know how successful this will be. Right now, from what I've heard, people are choosing between either this or the Empowered Seals to be their major level 100 point talent. And that's mostly due to the fact that the middle one that I'll show you here is not that, it doesn't make much sense, it's not that great. This is Seraphim. Seraphim, the light temporarily magnifies your power, increasing your haste, critical strike, mastery, multi-strike, versatility, and bonus armor from gear by 30%. It's not a flat increase to that, it's just from the stats on your gear. So learning it here, you'll see the nice little spell visual once I get up to 5 holy power. But overall, it's not the greatest ability that they have. Go ahead and pop it here, and then everything is upgraded from that. Personally, I'm not a fan. Most people I've talked to have not been a fan of it. There's could be possibility that there are changes that are made. I'm not sure. It's on a 30-second cooldown and only lasts for 10 seconds, so you'll have a 1/3 uptime on it. So those are the 3 talents of Retribution Paladins. I'm not gonna lie, they're some of the most lackluster talents in the game. I love Empowered Seals just because it brings back that old vibe of a paladin. And Final Verdict isn't bad with the ranged, but Seraphim really needs to kind of be changed and dropped. Overall, though, that is Retribution as a whole. The main things you really need to know are the 2 huge changes of the Inquisition being removed and the offensive cooldowns basically being consolidated. You won't notice it just hitting on a training dummy, but if you get out there in a battleground, you will notice the difference because you're going to be doing more damage than you normally do, just because you don't have to rely on those offensive cooldowns and Inquisition. So this has been another video for Warlords of Draenor beta class, kind of, overview of the changes for Retribution Paladin. The next video that I'll be getting into is going to be Beast Mastery Hunter. So this is Tierlis. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys later. Tierlis out.